Look at that bowl right there. Your cat has food, good food. You measure it, or at least you think you do. You've been feeding them this exact way for months, maybe years, and yet they're getting bigger. Their belly is closer to the floor. The vet mentioned it last visit. You nodded, went home, checked the bag. Same brand, same amount, same routine. So what's actually going on? It's not the food. I mean that literally. The food itself is not the problem. The problem is one thing you do every single day. Something almost every cat owner does. And it silently adds hundreds of extra calories to your cat's diet without you ever noticing. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what it is, why it happens, and the simple fix that can stop your cat's weight gain starting today. But first, I need to show you something about how your cat's body actually handles the food you give them. Because once you see this, that one mistake I mentioned will make complete sense. Here's something most people don't know about cats. Cats are obligate carnivores. That's a scientific term that basically means your cat's entire body is built to run on protein and fat. Not carbohydrates, not grains, not starch. In the wild, a cat's entire diet is the animals they hunt. A mouse, for example, is roughly 70% water, 20% protein, 9% fat, and almost zero carbohydrates. Now look at what's in most dry kibble. Even premium, expensive kibble. 30 to 50% carbohydrates, sometimes more. Your cat's liver produces almost none of the enzyme called amylase, the enzyme that breaks down carbohydrates. Dogs have it, humans have it. Cats barely produce it at all. So what happens to all those carbs your cat eats and can't properly break down? They get converted straight into fat quietly every single day. This is why a cat can eat a normal portion and still gain weight. Their body is storing what it cannot use. Now here's where it gets important, and where most owners unknowingly make things worse. A lot of people, maybe you, feed their cat a combination of wet and dry food. And that's not wrong. In fact, done right, it's one of the best things you can do. But there is one way people combine these two foods that turns this healthy approach into a slow weight gain machine. And I'm going to show you exactly what that is in about 90 seconds. But first, let me show you what combination feeding actually does to your cat's body, because understanding this is what makes the fix so obvious. When you add wet food to a dry food diet, three things happen immediately. First, hydration goes up. Dry kibble has about 10% moisture. Wet food sits between 75 and 80%, almost exactly the moisture content of a mouse. When your cat eats wet food, their kidneys filter waste more easily. Urine becomes more diluted, and the risk of urinary crystals and blockages, one of the most common and expensive cat emergencies, starts to drop. Second, hunger gets satisfied more effectively. Protein sends a much stronger fullness signal than carbohydrates. Cats fed higher protein meals eat, feel satisfied and walk away. Cats fed carbohydrate-heavy kibble digest fast and come back begging within hours. That's not personality, and that's biology. Third, and this is where it gets tricky, the calorie count gets complicated. When you feed just one food, portion control is straightforward. You measure one thing. The moment you feed two foods, most people stop measuring precisely and start estimating. And those estimates are almost always too high. A full portion of kibble plus a full portion of wet food can be 40 to 60% more calories than your cat needs in a single day. Do that every day for 6 months? That's significant weight gain, even on food that looks completely normal and healthy. But it's not just the quantity. There's a specific behavior, a specific habit that almost every combination feeder does. And this one habit is the real driver of weight gain. I'm going to show it to you right now. If you've been doing this, and you probably have, don't feel bad. I've never met a cat owner who wasn't doing it before they found out. Here it is. The mistake is leaving dry food out all day, while also serving wet food at mealtimes. It sounds completely reasonable. The dry food is always there as a backup. The wet food is the real meal. Seems balanced, right? Here's what's actually happening. Dry food left out all day digests fast. Remember, cats barely break down carbs, so the stomach empties quickly, and the hunger signal comes back within 2 to 3 hours. So your cat snacks, and snacks again. And by the time you serve the wet food at dinner, They've already eaten most of their daily calories in kibble. Gracie's they barely registered. Now they eat the wet food on top of that. Full day of snacking plus a full wet meal. That's not combination feeding. That's double feeding. Free choice dry food all day, plus a scheduled wet food meal. Your cat is essentially eating 2 full meals a day, every single day without either of you realizing it. And here's the part that makes this so hard to catch. Your cat doesn't look like they're overeating. They're not begging constantly. They're not finishing huge bowls. They're just grazing, a little here, a little there. Normal cat behavior. But those little grazes add up. And because dry kibble is so calorie-dense, far more than wet food by weight, even small amounts of constant access can push your cat well over their daily limit. So what do you do instead? Because I'm not telling you to ditch dry food, and I'm not telling you wet food is magic. I'm telling you the structure of how you feed matters, more than almost anything else. Here's the approach that works, and it's simpler than you might think. Rule number 1. Treat wet and dry as one meal, not 2 separate ones. Your cat needs a certain number of calories per day. That number doesn't change because you're using 2 foods. The wet and dry portions need to add up to that total, not each hit it independently. Most average adult cats need somewhere between 180 and 250 calories per day depending on size and activity. Check the feeding guide on both your wet and dry food packages and split that total between them. Rule number 2. Pick up the dry food bowl and schedule it like a meal. I know this sounds uncomfortable. A lot of cat owners feel guilty removing free access to food. But here's the reality. Scheduled meals are better for your cat in almost every way. It regulates hunger, prevents overeating, and actually makes your cat more engaged and less anxious around food. 2 to 3 set meal times a day is ideal. Put out a measured portion. Give them 20 to 30 minutes to eat and pick it up. Rule number 3. Serve wet food separately and fresh. Never mixed in with the dry. When wet food hits room temperature, bacteria multiply fast. Within 1 to 2 hours in a warm home, mixing wet food into dry food drags the whole bowl into that unsafe window. Serve the wet food as its own portion, and never leave it out longer than 2 hours. Rule number 4. Warm cold wet food before serving. Cats are drawn to food near body temperature, the temperature of fresh prey. Cold wet food straight from the fridge is less appealing and less stimulating. A splash of warm water or a few seconds in the microwave at low power makes a real difference. The goal is this. Wet food does the heavy lifting for health. Protein, moisture, satisfaction. Dry food plays the supporting role. Convenience and a bit of crunch, not equals partners. So let's come back to where we started. You looked at your cat's bowl and thought the food is fine. I'm doing it right. So why is she getting bigger? Now you know, it wasn't the food, it was never the food. It was the structure. One bowl left out all day, one wet meal layered on top, and a calorie total that quietly doubled without either of you noticing. That's it. That's the one thing. And the fix isn't a special diet. It isn't an expensive subscription service. It isn't a new brand of food. It's picking up the dry food bowl, measuring both portions against one daily calorie target, and serving the wet food fresh, separately, like the real meal it's meant to be. Most owners who make these 3 changes see a difference within 4 to 6 weeks. Not dramatic, but real. A slightly lighter cat, less frantic behavior around meal, times. Better litter box output, which, yes, matters more than most people think. Your cat cannot tell you when they're being overfed, that's on us. And now you have exactly what you need to get it right. If this changed the way you think about your cat's bowl, and I hope it did, hit that like button. It genuinely helps us reach more cat owners who want to do right by their animals. And if you have a friend or family member who's been wondering why their cat keeps gaining weight, despite eating normally, send this to them, because they're probably doing exactly this, and they don't know it yet. I'll see you in the next one.